to This Week in Big Sky Basketball as we take you around the conference for all the latest in Big Sky hoops. Now, here's your host, Scott Garrard.
Welcome on in. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. We're over halfway through the Big Sky Conference play, and the Montana Grizzlies continued their undefeated run on the men's side. They're now 11-0. Weber State held on to second place in the standings at 8-2. While Idaho is right on the Wildcats' heels at 8-3. On the women's side, Weber State emerged as a conference leader. They're now 8-2, while Northern Colorado, Idaho, and Montana sit right behind Weber State at 8-3 in the standings. Our guests today include Idaho junior guard Taylor Pierce, Northern Colorado men's coach Jeff Linder, and Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports, who will be joining us to talk about some of the top storylines from around the conference. All right, first let's take a look at what's been happening on the Big Sky women's basketball front. In a revolving door of Big Sky leaders, Weber State now atop the list with that 8-2 league record. However, Northern Colorado, Idaho, and Montana all right behind at 8-3. Weber State claimed that lead with victories over Southern Utah and Northern Arizona this past week. Northern Colorado defeated Montana and Montana State on the road to remain close, while Idaho picked up a pair of wins over Portland State and Sacramento State, boosting its winning streak now to 6 straight. This week's Ready Nutrition Player of the Week is Big Sky women's basketball player from Eastern Washington, Delaney Hodgins. Senior led the Eagles to a pair of wins over Sacramento State and Portland State on the week. She averaged 27.5 points, 5.5 rebounds per game, and became Eastern Washington's all-time leading scorer. Her 1,906 points now ranks 6th all-time in Big Sky history. As the road to Reno widens down, several players appear to be peaking at the right moment. Idaho certainly is one of them. With that, let's reach out to Idaho's junior guard, Taylor Pierce. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well. Congratulations. 6-game winning streak. What's been the difference over these last 6 games for your team?
We've really focused on rebounding and defense the last few weeks, especially since our last loss to Eastern. Something we focused on in practice, and I think every day, every game, we're going out and we're doing it. I think that's been the X factor in our games.
You and your teammates, Michaela Ferenz, Jerry McCorkle, they've caught fire from behind the arc as well. You've been able to find your balance scoring as well. How do you balance that between making sure they get their good looks and you get your shots as well?
I think we run a lot of plays for Jerry and Michaela, and they do a great job of getting open looks. But at the same time, the defense has to pay a lot of attention to them. So the rest of us kind of find our openings, and we make the most of them. So I think that's probably the biggest part is making the most of your looks when you get them, and making sure, we all do our job to make sure that Jerry and Michaela get the looks they need to.
You're averaging, as a team, over 73 points a game, which ranks 2nd in the Big Sky this season. What's made this offense so difficult for teams to stop?
I think, with the three of us, Jerry, Michaela, and myself, I think it's a little hard to focus on one person and try to take that away. We're all working really well together, and we're a really unselfish team. So I think that's a big part is, everybody's not afraid to give up a great shot for their teammates. So being unselfish, and at this point, we're putting the ball in the hole pretty well. That's
got to be a good feeling for your team, though, when, maybe the focus is on you and it opens up opportunities for the other two, or somebody gets focused in on and it allows other people to get opportunities. And it seems like, the chemistry is there and the relationship is there that allows your team to be successful. And, that unselfish nature that you're talking about, if you have that, then it sounds like you're able to get some good looks.
Yeah, our team chemistry this year is something special. I think all of us really love hanging out with each other outside of basketball and on the court. We know we're each other's biggest fans. So I think in the games it's super easy to give up a shot for yourself when, somebody like Michaela or Jerry is open. And I think that's a big part of why we're winning games right now. And if we keep it up, I think, some great things can happen.
This conference is crazy so far this year on the women's side, from top to bottom. What's it like? I mean, do you guys, after your game, then go back and look at the scores from around the conference and keep track of what else is going on?
More so this year than any year I've played is we've been trying to keep up with everything. I think every team in this conference can win it this year, and it's been kind of crazy with how close it is. So I think just keeping up with it, it's really exciting, and you just know that every day you got to go out and you beat a really great team no matter who you're playing. So it's really fun. I'm really enjoying it this year.
I bet. You got a big one against Eastern Washington. They got you earlier in the year. What do you need to do to make sure that you're able to get a little bit of revenge against Eastern?
It wasn't our best game. I know we got killed in rebounding, so Coach had a talk with us after that game, and we've managed to fix it. So we got to go out there and do the dirty work and get the loose balls that we didn't get last time, and just play harder than them. We found that when we play harder, we seem to win games. So our offensively, it wasn't that great of a game for us last time either. So I think we'll get our looks, and we just have to make the most of them. And in the end, we just got to play good D and rebound.
I know you want to be playing for a long, long time, but we always like to get to know you as and the athletes, not only as players but as people as well. When you decide to hang up the tennis shoes, what do you want to be doing?
I'm hoping to go to medical school, so go into that field, and I'm really interested in orthopedics. So if everything works out for me, hopefully I'll be a doctor in 8 years. But that's what I'm hoping for.
8 years is hard to comprehend, is it not?
Yeah, it's a long time from now, but if I just, be diligent, stay on the books, I think I'll be all right.
I like it. Idaho's Taylor Pierce, kind enough to join us. Taylor, thanks for your time. Keep it rolling. We look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you.
You got it. Again, Taylor Pierce from Idaho joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Hoops. For the last 30 years, Sports Graphics has been a leader in providing signage and services for the top professional and amateur sporting events across the country. That's why the Big Sky Conference is proud to work with Sports Graphics for all of their signage at Big Sky's championships. Sports Graphics, proud sponsor of the Big Sky. We'll take a short break, come back with the Northern Colorado head coach Jeff Linder. We'll talk about this week's Big Sky Ready Nutrition Men's Basketball Player of the Week. It's all straight ahead. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Big Sky fans want Big Sky gear, and the number one place for Big Sky Conference merchandise is at BigSkyShop.com. With thousands of items for your favorite Big Sky teams, including jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and more, BigSkyShop.com has the greatest selection you'll find anywhere. You'll also get great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and $4.99 flat rate shipping on every order. So when you need Big Sky gear, head to BigSkyShop.com.
Big Sky fans, all 11 sports games are available on WatchBigSky.com and Pluto TV. 11 Sports is available on various cable, satellite, telco, and OTT providers. Make Big Sky football a part of your weekend by going to 11sportsusa.com/where to watch to find 11 Sports in your area. Again, for all the action, go to 11sportsusa.com/where to watch.
You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Welcome back. Segment number 2 here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Garrard. Hey, the 2018 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships are being held in Reno. Always a great time. Make sure to visit roadtoreno.com to get your tickets as well as hotel information. March 5th through the 10th as the Big Sky will take over Reno, Nevada. And, of course, we want you there. All right, let's take a look at what's been happening in Big Sky Men's Basketball. Montana continues to be in the driver's seat. The Grizzlies improved to 11-0 in conference play after a pair of close victories over Northern Colorado and North Dakota. Weber State also victorious on the road against Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. They moved to 8-2 in league play and remain in second place. Idaho defeated Portland State and Sacramento State away from home to sit in third. They're now at 8-3. Big Sky Ready Nutrition Player of the Week for the men's side, Northern Colorado senior guard Andre Spite, after averaging 36.5 points last week. 41-point performance in a win over Montana State set a new school record and tied for the most points in the Big Sky this season. They also recorded 32 points against lead leader Montana, now recording at least 30 points in 4 straight home games. All right, again, time to welcome in the head coach of our Big Sky Player of the Week, Northern Colorado's Jeff Linder. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Excited to chat with you. It's been interesting as you've seen this season go back and forth. This conference is just crazy as it's gone. Montana's kind of stretched things out a little bit, but after that, everybody's battling for positioning, and this is kind of what you expect this time of the year in the Big Sky.
Yeah, there's no question, Scott. It's I think right now, it's pretty obvious. I'd probably not say obvious, just from the fact that just with the unbalanced schedule with the Big Sky, Montana, right now, there's no doubt in my mind after playing, we are the one team that's played, all the teams that are in the top half of the league, and there's no question as of right now, Montana is the team to beat, and, they're the team right now that probably, doesn't beat themselves as much as the other teams, and that's a credit to them. But at the same time, too, there's a lot of there's a lot of parity, and regardless if that's Montana or if that's northern Arizona, I mean, all of us in between. I mean, it's in February, any one of us can beat anybody on any given night. So you just better have your team ready to go, and you just better be the team that has a little bit more energy and executes a little bit better, and that's usually what's going to be the difference.
What were you able to take away from your team in that game against the Grizzlies?
We played them twice, and it's a team where sometimes in this, a lot of times, and it's basketball, whether it's the NCAA tournament, whether it's in league. Sometimes you match up with some teams better than others, and probably we're in the case. Idaho probably right now is thinking, we're probably the one team they don't want to see when it comes to the conference tournament. Montana for us, just kind of the way they can play a little bit bigger and still be able to defend a smaller team, maybe causes some problems. But, I think at the end of the day for us, I think we've shown, especially when you have a guard of the caliber of Andre Spite, who on any given night can go and get 40. I think we're the one team where when we're clicking on all cylinders, and we're a team that relies on making a lot of outside shots, we're a team that's very, very dangerous this time of year.
Yeah, you talk about Andre. He picked up his second Big Sky Player of the Week honor. The transfer from Arizona State certainly has provided a nice presence for this team. What has he been able to bring, not only on the court but off the court, that's really helped your squad this year?
I think ultimately, it's just one on the court is just the ability to get his shot anytime he wants, and the ability to make shots. And there's a lot of guys that take shots, but there's not very many guys that make shots, and especially make shots when when it really matters. When the game's on the line, he's not scared of the moment. And I think probably that mentality's probably rubbed off on some of our guys off the court as well. But he's as talented of a guard. I've coached some really good guards in my time, coaching at the college level, and probably from an offensive standpoint, he's probably the most talented guard that I've coached, and he's a guy where you just got to put him in space, and you kind of just, in a lot of ways, sometimes I sit there and wonder, it's like I'm Mike D'Antoni with James Harden and Chris Paul, and sometimes you can overcoach and you want ball movement and you want player movement, but sometimes the best thing to have is your best player with the ball in his hands and just let him operate in space.
It's really interesting, too. Sometimes you as a coach can get in the way a little bit, I guess, huh?
There's no question. And sometimes, at the end of the day, my first boss in Division I basketball was Ricardo Patton at the University of Colorado. Yeah. And he came up with a great line. Said, I don't need tricky plays. I just need tricky players.
I like it. Hey, you're no stranger to the Big Sky. You spent a couple of years on Randy Ray's staff at Weber State. Now you're in your second year at Northern Colorado. What's it back and coaching in the Big Sky, and have you enjoyed your run there at Northern Colorado?
Yeah, no, I've, being from the western part of the United States, I've always kept up with the Big Sky, being with Coach Ray Weber his first 2 years there. It's what I don't miss though is I forgot what the travel was like from Wednesday to Sunday. My wife and kids got spoiled when I was at Boise State, and we usually only played one road game a week, and sometimes if that was during the weekday, you chartered back, and so when I have 4 kids at home under the age of basically 12, and my wife sitting there thinking, man, you guys are gone for another 5 days. Sometimes, but luckily I married well, and I evaluated well at a young age with my wife, so she gets it. But the travel I don't miss. But at the end of the day, it's a league in terms of just overall talent, and then I think just from the overall coaching acumen. I think there's a lot of really well coached teams, and that's where if you don't have your team ready to go, the other team's definitely going to be ready. So that's a challenge every night as well.
Well, Coach, hate to break it to you, but you do hop on the bus. You go to Idaho State and Weber State this week, splitting those 2 games last time around with Idaho State and a narrow loss to Weber State and Greeley. What's the key with coming up with some wins this weekend?
It's a good question. If I had those answers, I probably wouldn't give them to you. But at the end of the day, it's in February. It's just it's the dog days, as we tell our guys. There's 351 Division I teams, and probably every night, probably about 10 teams decide, we're done. I know we're not in that position. I know the 2 teams we're playing are not in that position. So ultimately, you just got to do what you do better than what they do. And, I know Coach Evans he's done a really good job with that group he has this year. And, they're dangerous with their ability to shoot the ball. Hopefully our ability to take away the 3-point shot, which we do better than anybody in the country. will help out, and then turn around and play a Weber team that just like Montana probably they won't beat themselves. I mean, you have to go in there and beat them and make fewer mistakes. And what I've learned as well, when you forget, is in the Big Sky on those Saturday games. I mean, it's pretty much boils down to personnel and principles. It's not about out coaching or outsmarting or out scheming the other team, because ultimately you don't have enough turnaround time. So in the day, Saturdays, it's all about juice. It's all about your players, and it's all about what you do every single day. And so that's what's going to be our focus leading into this weekend.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us, and keep it rolling. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, Scott.
You got it. Northern Colorado coach Jeff Linder joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. When we come back, we'll preview the week ahead in the Big Sky. We'll also have a visit with Colter Nuanez from Skyline Sports. We'll also note where you can find all the Big Sky games on TV this weekend. Stay with us. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for Big Sky action. The leading free internet television service in America will stream live sporting events, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. Simply go to Pluto TV to find games from several different sports. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for all Big Sky action. The road to Reno is here. March 5th, 2018, the Big Sky Conference will descend upon Reno, Nevada for the 2018 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. Go to roadtoreno.com to book tickets and accommodations for Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball. The road to Reno is here. Be part of the thrill of Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball and join the road to Reno.
You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
All right, welcome back. Final segment of this week's episode of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Garrard. Big Sky Conference will air all of its live stream sports events on Pluto TV for free, including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. All 11 sports production, also available on WatchBigSky.com and Pluto TV. 11 Sports is available on various cable, satellite, telco, and OTT providers. Now, remember, the Big Sky basketball games can be seen on Watch Big Sky and Pluto TV with this week's men's basketball 11 Sports Game of the Week featuring Sacramento State against the Big Sky leading Montana Grizzlies on Saturday in Missoula. All right, on tap for the Big Sky men's action this week is Montana and Montana State playing host to Portland State and Sacramento State, while Weber State and Idaho State host North Dakota and Northern Colorado. Idaho welcomes in travel partner Eastern Washington, while Northern Arizona hosts Southern Utah in just the one matchup of the week for those two teams. Now for the women, Northern Colorado and North Dakota will host Idaho State and Weber State this week, while Sacramento State and Portland State bring in Montana and Montana State with just one game scheduled for the week. Idaho will play host to Eastern Washington, and Northern Arizona travels to Southern Utah to round out the action. Now remember, every single Big Sky Conference game can be seen on Pluto TV and WatchBigSky.com for free, and of course in high definition, whether you're watching on a tablet, smartphone, laptop, or desktop, you can access the Big Sky anywhere. All right, with that, let's welcome in Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. Colter, always a pleasure. How you doing, man?
Very well. How you doing?
Doing well. Northern Colorado head coach Jeff Linder just joined us earlier, talked about his senior guard, Andre Spite. He continues to stand out and scoring a ton of points. What are your thoughts on his play so far this year?
Well, twofold. I think it's been impressive to see how much he's been able to shoulder that load, especially recently. I think that 41-point game against Montana State was his fourth game of over 30 in the last month, so he's really been filling it up. But they just use him so much. They put the ball in his hands. They let him make a decision. And to me, kind of the momentum-changing plays that helped them get separation against Montana State were not even shots that he made. It was the two alley-oops that he threw to Jordan Davis. He draws so much attention that when he gets it going, especially with that step-back three that he shoots, it makes him pretty tough to stop. And then that opens up cutters to the lane. And he's a really good passer, too. So it's been impressive to see how much of the load he's been able to take. But also it's been impressive to see Jordan Davis adjust. Because last year Jordan Davis was that high-usage guy. I think he was third or fourth in the conference in scoring, led the conference in assists. Now he's been able to play off the ball a little bit this year, but also has been able to produce at a high level, averaging more than 16 points a game as well. So I think that those two guys being able to play together gives Northern Colorado one of, if not the best backcourt in the league.
You got the Grizzlies now at 11-0 on the men's side. They have 5 out of their final 7 games at home in Missoula, where they're 9-0. We talked a little bit about this last week. They still have some big games against Weber State coming up, but who do you think outside of Weber might be the teams that could come up and maybe create some problems for them?
Well, the Big Sky is all about matchups, and there's several matchups still on the docket for Montana, as well as they have played, that could give them problems, starting Thursday night against Portland State. Portland State has been a little bit up and down during the conference schedule, which I think has surprised some people. But when they get rolling, they can literally beat anybody because they can score so many points. They can steal the momentum from you with the style that they play. Montana handled it well last time in Portland, but still had to hang on for a 92-89 win. So Portland State will definitely be a challenge Thursday. And then Sacramento State has always been a huge challenge for Montana as well. This group of guys had never won at Sac State until they won at Sac State earlier this year. I think they only had one win against Sac State collectively as a group. The style kind of contrasts with the way that Brian Katz throws so many different zone defenses at you. The one weakness of this Montana team is probably their outside shooting, although they are shooting the ball really well in conference play so far. And then you look down the road, that Eastern Washington, Idaho trip, I think Montana last year was the only team that had swept that trip since Idaho came back in the league in 2014. So that's always a huge challenge. I expect the Kibbe Dome to be rocking next Saturday with a lot on the line there. And then you mentioned the Weber State game. That's always a huge game. It's too bad that they only get to play one time this year because I know it's kind of like the big rivalry in the Big Sky outside of maybe Montana State. So still several challenges remaining for Montana, but if they continue to show the diversity they've shown these first 11 games, they're going to be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah. Northern Colorado women suffered back-to-back losses a couple weeks ago, but now they've won 3 in a row. They now sit at number 32 in the latest RPI. Is there a way the Big Sky could be a two-team league this year in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it kind of just depends on who that second team is. Honestly, they might have a chance to be a two-bid league if Northern Colorado was to continue to play well, win the regular season, but then lose to another team in the championship. I think that might be the scenario that helps the Big Sky get 2 teams in, ironically. I think if you are the Big Sky, just in general, you want your best team to represent you in the NCAA tournament. I know that Northern Colorado had kind of a speed bump when Courtney Smith left the program abruptly. That kind of coincided with their 2-game losing streak. But now that they're back on track, the sweep they had through Montana last week was incredibly impressive. Montana State's playing as well as anybody in the league, and Northern Colorado just buried them in the fourth quarter. And the Lady Grizz were playing as well as anybody in the league as well, and Northern Colorado just ran away from them. So I think Northern Colorado is the best team on the women's side. It still remains to be seen, though, who's the second best team. Montana State is right there. Montana is right there. Weber State is right there. So Idaho is there as well. So a whole bunch of teams are kind of challenging for that number 2. I think the only way the league get a second team in, though, is if one of those teams gets up into the 23-24 win range, and then Northern Colorado somehow loses in the championship. Maybe it's a 2-bid league, but still, I think it's probably still sitting here as a 1-bid league right now.
So we talked a couple of weeks ago. I always like to get your opinion on the national scene. You said your top picks heading to San Antonio for the Final Four. You mentioned Michigan State, Duke, Oklahoma, and then that spot out of the West was wide open. What do you feel? You think anything solidified here out West?
I watched a lot of Pac-12 lately, and I really like Arizona. The league is cannibalizing itself, though, because it's such a tough league. Everybody's beating each other, and it's making it so it's a hard time that anybody in the Pac-12 can get up into the top 10. I think Arizona, 12th or 13th this week, depending on which poll you look at. But I think that they have the most just pure talent. Alonzo Trier is obviously a proven player, but I love the big kid. I love the DeAndre Ayton kid. I think he's kind of like to me, he reminds me of a taller, maybe even more athletic version of Amari Stoudemire. I love him. I think he's a really good player, game changer. But then those West Coast Conference teams are kind of battling it out, too. So you wonder if the West, just in general, the Pac-12, the West Coast Conference, the Mountain West, you even see it in the Big Sky a little bit, beating each other up and maybe hurting the reputation on the national scene. But, if I had to pick one team out of the West right now, I think Arizona would be my pick. And then as far as the rest of the field goes, Villanova has just surged back up. The way that they shoot the 3 makes them have to be a Final Four favorite. Virginia, best defense in the country, no doubt. I think Tony Bennett's probably the leading candidate for Coach of the Year nationally. And Purdue has been a surprise as well. You know, they lose Biggie Swanigan, but they don't miss a beat, and they're as big and physical as any team in the country. So still a lot of basketball to be played, though, as you know. Whoever gets hot, that's what's going to matter most, and we still have a whole month to gain that momentum.
I know. I love every moment of this month coming up leading into March. Colter, always great stuff, man. Appreciate it. What do you got coming up on the podcast?
We got all sorts of stuff. National Signing Day tomorrow as well. Full coverage out of both the Montana schools, as well as full releases from every other program around the Big Sky Conference. Who's signing where? We'll also have the audio from Bobby Hauke and Jeff Choate up here, and then on my Stars of Big Sky basketball podcast, actually Andre Spite will join us, as well as Jamar Coe from Montana, Jamal Aites from Southern Utah, Holland Woods, the stud freshman from Portland State, as well as Brian Fish, Montana State head coach.
As always, you're not messing around with that thing. We appreciate it. Great stuff as always.
I appreciate it, Scott.
Good stuff. Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Special thanks to our guest, Idaho junior guard Taylor Pierce, Northern Colorado men's coach Jeff Linder, and Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. Also, big thanks to Austin Horton and the executive producers of This Week in Big Sky Basketball, Blake Barrington and Lee Williams. I'm Scott Garrard. Enjoy the games this week. Be back with you next week for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.